A very good day, ladies and gentlemen. Your cruise director Ray on Tuesday, the 26th of June, 2018. It is about 6:25 a.m. We have just left the ship on the pilot boat. We'll be heading over to shore to catch the ship coming through the first set of locks. As today, we travel 77 kilometers, taking you from the Pacific into the Atlantic, one of the world's greatest man-made wonders, the Panama Canal. We thought we'd go a little behind the scenes today, go out and about and show you a little bit more about the canal than you're going to see from the ship's side. So we're going to take you out. You're going to join us as we follow you through the Panama Canal over the next 77 kilometers. Just coming up after 9 a.m. and we're at the first set of locks. That's the Miraflores locks. They were actually built in 1913. The canal itself was not opened until August 15th, 1914. Now the Miraflores locks is a two-chamber series of locks that's going to actually raise the ship 16.5 meters. After this set of locks at Miraflores, we then move on to the Pedro Miguel lock, which is one single lock, also raising the ship up again to the Gatun Lake level. We hope you enjoy your day. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is your first set of locks. We're going to get some shots of you out on deck enjoying the sights, and we'll be back with more information in just a minute. Now Insignia is just about to be raised up in its first chamber. Once again, the two chambers will raise the ship 16.5 meters, taking you to the next set of locks. Little information about the canal itself. The French actually started the Panama Canal in 1880, but after a massive loss of life due to malaria, yellow fever, and working conditions, the canal was sold to the U.S. Now, the U.S. purchased the Panama Canal in 1904, completing it again in 1914. But when they did purchase, they purchased for $50 million. That's $50 million. 40 of that, 40 million went to the French government and 10 million to the Panamanian government. Now, $50 million in 1904 terms is equivalent about $1.3 billion today. So not a bad purchase price when you think what they got out of it. Now, after the U.S. purchased the canal for $50 million in 1904, they put another $400 million, which is equivalent to $14.3 billion today. But $400 additional million went into the construction of the Panama Canal before it was finished in 1914. All right, it's now 10:35 a.m. You had a successful transit of the Miraflores locks. You're now entering into the Pedro Miguel locks. This is a single lock chamber. It's going to raise the ship another 10 meters. And after that raise of 10 meters, it will then go into Gatun Lake, which you will be spending the next few hours in. Now in Gatun Lake, you're going to go through the Culebra Cut. We're going to go ahead and give you some footage of that in a little bit, and also give you some information about Gatun Lake and which direction you're actually traveling. If you can see behind me that the new lock chamber that is opened back 2 years ago, it actually opened on this day, June 26, 2016. So this is 2 years to the day that the new canal locks open. This is obviously the Pacific side lock. It's one set of chambers, just one lock that takes you all the way up or down on both sides of the canal. And you can see that behind me now. You may not have been able to see that from the ship. Also, another little interesting tidbit of information, ladies and gentlemen, that the new lock that just opened 2 years ago, actually back in 1938, the U.S. was building a larger lock. And the reason they were doing that, they were going to build a bigger battleship, but then the war broke out and they decided not to do it thereafter. So there was an attempt to build another set of locks to make it for bigger ships to transit back in 1938 by the U.S., but once the war broke out, they decided not to go ahead and go along with that. Came at a cost to many people here in Panama, as actually between 1880 and 1889, during the French occupation, when they were actually building the canal, they lost over 30,000 workers, 30,609 to be exact, from yellow fever and malaria that was running rampant at the time of the construction of the canal. So like all great things, there was a cost involved. Unfortunately, over 30,000 lives were lost. Passing under the Centennial Bridge, you're going to be entering a place called the Culebra Cut. Now, the Culebra Cut is an 8-mile section that will take you from Pedro Miguel locks to Gatun Lake before entering into the Gatun locks. Once again, it's an 8-mile stretch, about 150 meters across. They've done some extra dredging and widened it in places. This is due to the new locks that are going in for the supersized ships that will be using the new Panama Canal locks. Again, this is an 8-mile section. It runs right through the Continental Divide. There's actually a plaque that go ahead and says where the Continental Divide actually is. That's through the Culebra Cut. And also, this is considered one of the toughest areas to build of the Panama Canal. Most of the loss of life came in this particular area here in the Culebra Cut. We're now in the Gatun locks. This is the third and final set of locks as we make our way back into the Atlantic. We're actually going to go back down 26 meters into the Atlantic Ocean. As you can see, we're not outside right now, as you know, on the ship. It was a little bit rainy. We are a little behind schedule right now. It's about 3:05, but that's normal. When you transit the Panama Canal, you can be a few minutes ahead, a few minutes back. It all works out, though, by the end. Also, as you can see, as mentioned, not outside. We're in the old original control room of the Panama Canal. Now, the system you see behind me is not in use anymore, but this was the original system used. It's now all run by computers, and obviously there's a little manual work that is needed, but the old system is still here. It's a very interesting sight to see it. We're going to go outside and weather the elements, I guess. I think Damien and myself will be running around for a little bit. Derek's going to take some very interesting shots as well of the lock doors and how they operate. This is a total gravity system, ladies and gentlemen. And another thing I want to mention, if you didn't know this, today you're not actually traveling east. When you transit the canal from the Pacific to the Atlantic, you're actually heading northwest. You're not transiting east, you're actually heading northwest. If you don't believe me, look at a map. But for order us to get to the Atlantic today, we had to travel northwest. That's the way it works here in the Panama Canal. Again, Derek's going to take some shots of the doors. They are operated on gravity, ladies and gentlemen. The water flows in from the lake. It raises a ship or lowers a ship, respectively, on which side of the lake, and then back out into the prospective ocean. All of it is fresh lake water, and all water from the lake runs out both on the Atlantic and the Pacific side. Hope you enjoy your transit through the Gatun Locks. One of the old mules. This is actually from 1914, one of the original mules. Back in 1914, I understand, they had 24 operating mules. This is one of the original 24. This was built in 1924 by a little company you may have heard of, General Electric. Yes, General Electric built the original mules back in 1914. And if you follow me down here, this is kind of interesting. The cost of the mules back in 1914, I understand they tell me, was about $20,000 per mule, $25,000. This is a modern day mule. You've seen them. They brought your ship through all the sets of locks, and they'll be bringing through the Gatun locks once you get here. And this is a modern day mule. Cost price, if you wanted to purchase one of these, is about $1.2 million. $1.2 million for a new model. Used ones are going for about $980,000. There's not really a market for used mules. I just made that up. I want to let you know, though, there's not 24 operating mules now in the canal. There are actually 140 operating mules in the canal. So just the cost of the mules alone, at that price, think about it, it's a little pricey when you take your ship through. We're going to talk about different pricing of the canal for your ship today. We're going to try to find out what the final bill was. I'm going to give you some information about the most expensive transit in the Panama Canal ever to this date, right around $375,000. Which ship do you think it was? We'll let you know in a little bit, but see if you can figure out which ship was the most costly transit ever of the Panama Canal. Which passenger ship? It came in at $375,000, one transit, one way. See if you can figure out what ship that was. Cost of today's transit is upwards of around $200,000, ladies and gentlemen. What is the most expensive transit? That just happened a few months ago on the Norwegian Bliss, ringing in a bell of $375,000 for its transit. Our transit today is again around $200,000, but what is the least amount anyone ever paid? In 1928, a gentleman by the name of Richard Halberton decided to swim the canal, and the Canal Authority gave him a toll of 38 cents. Only 38 cents. A little bit of a better bargain than our $200,000. Now, another interesting fact about the Panama Canal is the actual chambers and how much water is in each chamber to move the ships up and down. The chambers filled with water represent 52 million gallons. That's 52 million gallons of fresh lake water per chamber to move the ships up and down. And again, as mentioned before, all the water in the canal actually goes back into the ocean. It all comes from the lake, and whether you're going into the Atlantic or into the Pacific, all of that is lake water that's going back to the ocean. It is right now 4 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen, not behind schedule too much. This is the final set of locks for your 12-lock transit of the Panama Canal. You covered 77 kilometers or 51 miles today with your transit, which started at 6:30 this morning. Also, we want to let you know that between 13,000 and 14,000 ships a year. This is a 24-hour operation, both at the old original set of locks and the new set of locks With the 2 docks working, that is about 13,000 to 14,000 ships each and every year transiting the Panama Canal. We hope you enjoyed your day. We're going to get going because once you get in your last set of locks, we got to go down to Cologne, jump in a boat, and catch up with the ship before you head off to Cartagena. So we got to get going here real quick, but I do want to thank everyone who helped us out today. We got our great guide Aaron, who is with us in the canal. Of course, our driver Miguel and Elmo. Yes, his name is Elmo. Also Damien for being my best boy and key grip, carrying around the equipment today in the less than suitable weather conditions. This is really weird having him under me, I'll tell you that right now. And also your broadcast manager, Derek, who did all the filming today. I do want to mention also this video will be available for those of you that would like it. We do a cruise and review video at the end of the cruise, and we're not only going to include that, we're going to tack this on as well. So we're going to give you an extra bonus for the end of cruise video for those that want to purchase, and this video will be included as well. I want to thank everyone at the Panama Canal, and on behalf of all of us here at Oceania, we hope you've enjoyed your day in the ditch.